Sidisi, of course, managed to turn Hunter into an OTK. Carver is the new card where you can target something for discounts in your hand. So you do that. You discount your Emmon Scale Scout, which becomes an 8/8 dragon after you play a dragon that does its damage anywhere, including face. You get it to 1 mana. You play a Cloud Serpent, so you have 2 of them, and then you play it with Neri.
Oh no. So it doubles the power before the battle cry?
Then does 16 damage. It sure did work. Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He sure did cook there. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 536 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Saturday, March 7th, 2026 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, and by our patrons of the week, TR Highlands and Forgiven One. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, the reason for Saturday is a couple of things. First, we had Theorycrafting on Thursday, which overlapped with when we would normally record the show, and we are not Blizzlet, so we did not then go record after Theorycrafting. In our defense, they all are in time zones that are a couple hours in their favor for doing that process. Whereas Wicked and I would be starting that at like 10. So and then Megasa, you and I both are not feeling great. So Saturday helped us feel a little bit better, but we're gonna try and keep this one maybe a little bit more brief, as much as possible with how much there is to cover, and we'll do a lot more of our like in-depth. We're going to do superlatives next week, and that always is a big one. So
yeah, and there's a fair amount of news which is not unexpected going into a rotation, but we'll try to go through it relatively expeditiously. A lot of it is going to be good to know, but we'll go through that, and then we'll talk through what we learned in Theorycrafting, I suppose.
All right. Well, Life and Ladder. I mean, we're gonna. The main thing is Theorycrafting, right? We're gonna talk way more about that in explanations. If my voice sounds a little different, I am congested because I got a second respiratory virus in less than a month. Somehow, and feeling somewhat better today. On the day of Theorycrafting, I did not have the greatest win rate on my own account. And I also managed to burn myself twice in 2 different monumentally stupid ways in the kitchen. So this was clearly not my full brain day. I did manage to completely destroy my mom at Scrabble somehow. It's like my brain was like, that was the only thing. Like the New York Times cross-play app where you can Scrabble against someone. And this is one way that I keep in touch with my mom is we'll tell each other what we got for Wordle and things like that. And she originally was destroying me in Scrabble, but I am now figuring out the strategy. So my brain rallied for that. And I did have a great time in Theorycrafting. I did particularly well with Token Druid. We'll talk about that. And I'm really looking forward to rotation. In the meantime, in the game, just playing a little bit of Protoss Priest, a little bit of Discover Hunter, a little bit of Dragon Warrior. Sort of the greatest hits that I've been doing. And yeah, things are going to change. Possibly even by the time that you're listening to this, we'll be in Franken Meta, which is Franken Meta is when they do the reverts of cards that are about to go to Wild. So things are going to be crazy for the next few weeks, and everything's going to be different. So I'm just enjoying the last bits of these decks that I've played for a while.
Wicked?
Well, Slay the Spire 2 came out. So yeah, I've unlocked the defect My Beloved, and I have been orbing people. And that has been what I've been doing the last 2 days. I've played a few games. I've just been playing Arcwing Mage because like I'm not learning anything new. So like that's what I've been jamming, and it's working for the most part. But I'll play a few games, and I'm not really climbing all that fast because I am very ready for rotation, and I don't really want to do another climb like that. But I also wouldn't mind getting to Legend before the set comes out. But if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not gonna kill myself to do it. But yeah, Slay the Spire 2 is good. And if you like Slay the Spire, it is more of that, but with other things happening. So it's similar enough that like I am getting right back into it, but also there's enough other things going on. There's a few new classes and stuff like that. I haven't really played. I tried playing with the new classes. I wasn't really jiving with them, and then I unlocked the defect. I'm like, okay, I know how to do orbs. We're gonna do orbs. That's it. I'm good. Channel lightning. Good. I'm set. So I have been I've been playing, going back and forth between that and Trails of Cold Steel 4. And which is, I mean, I guess I am saying it just to say it because like that's going to be my life for like the next couple of years, I guess, or the rest of the Trails games, but still working my way through that. So I got through Act 1 of Trails of Cold Steel 4 yesterday. So still good.
Nice.
What about you, Edel?
I finished Mistborn. I think that was this past week. Or was it last? I don't know.
I think this. I don't think you had quite finished it last week.
Yeah, finished it. Good book. I have timed listening to these poorly, apparently, because I guess with the show announcement, everyone's like, "Oh, I should actually read that," and so there's quite a wait for book 2, Well of Ascension, on my library. But yeah. So yeah, and other than that, just really busy with Leah stuff. We had a field trip, which is why I couldn't start theory crafting as soon as it began, and then yeah, getting sick and everything. Leah's been sick, so it's just a lot. I need to make sure that my voice is recovered for all the things I need to do this week, mainly upcoming playoffs at the end, but also I need to, for this upcoming episode of the Jungian Ever After podcast I do, it's Medea, and we're pulling from like the play, not the whole thing, but like the parts that make our points and are relevant to what we're talking about. And so I'm just doing it solo with different voices.
Oh.
So that's gonna be a lot. I haven't decided how much I'm gonna just try and do with myself doing different voices, and how much I'm gonna use my voice changer thing that like lets you mess with, like, it has preset characters you can do if you want to sound like supernatural things. I haven't messed around with it too much in terms of like sounding like different kinds of people rather than like, how do I sound like an angel or sound like a demon? Or so we'll have to see how that goes. But, yeah, but otherwise, very excited about the new cards, and playoffs is going to be nuts because Frank and meta.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we ought to. That kind of leads us to talking about that because we have Frank and meta and playoffs news. So let's talk about those things. Okay, so as Etta was mentioning, we do have winter playoffs next week. So we got the announcement in time for us to discuss it on the podcast, which is nice. That is not always the case, where they usually say something on Monday and then it's like, oh, we've recorded. There's no post to reference, but here we are. So it is going to be going. The playoffs are actually going through the weekend, right, Edel? But it's only Sunday that they're streaming them.
That is
right?
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
They are going to be at minimum Saturday. I think it might actually be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, we're
It
just
looks like it
streaming
says.
Sunday.
Yeah, it looks like it says Friday and Saturday not broadcast Swiss,
Yeah.
and then Sunday
Yeah.
broadcast top 8 for each region.
It's a big tournament. It's a lot of Swiss.
Yeah. So Sunday, March 15th, the broadcast will begin at 12 a.m. Pacific, which is 3 a.m. Eastern. So that's going to be APAC into Europe, into EU, into Americas, right? Because they're doing the top 8 for each region.
Correct.
So, and then the top 4 from each region are going to qualify for the Winter Championship next month. So the each region has 50 competitive point earners from the winter season, plus the top 4 players from each open qualifier, and then the winner of each Winter Blitz weekend tournament, one of which is Firebat in North America, as we talked about last week. So you can and should watch. Again, just because we're not existentially worried about esports doesn't mean that it's not important for people to watch.
Yep.
And fun.
Yeah. You can get a Cataclysm pack by watching for an hour. And there will also be co-streams. So if some of your favorite streamers may be streaming it. Also, the official playoff stream will be on the Play Hearthstone channels on both YouTube and Twitch, where our own Edelweiss will be casting along with the usual cast of characters. So
probably
do make
won't
sure
be doing
to,
much of the APAC part.
hopefully you're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do that. But I mean, also all the Europeans need to go to bed at some point. So, or maybe they don't.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they don't sleep.
Typically, that is the bargain, right? Is I am more sort of loaded for the Americas part when like the EU folks would like to go to sleep, and they take care of more of the APAC part, so I can actually sleep through the night. The exception being, I think we have Pocket back, and
It says you do.
He doesn't sleep.
He gets paired with me for America's stuff.
That's because he doesn't sleep. That's fine. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He's on esports time. So, which roughly, for him being in EU, roughly aligns with like U.S. time zones.
Yeah,
So.
I think Lorinda, Pocket, and I are often the designated, America's time late stuff.
Yeah. I'm convinced Lorinda just doesn't sleep. Period.
They, adapt.
But yes, and the feature of that is that we are getting balance changes on when the new patch drops. I believe it's on Tuesday. So we got at least part of the balance preview in this Cataclysm community events and balance patch preview, which went into the Theorycrafting live streams. That's already happened. There are details about the pre-release Tavern Brawl, which will be going from March 10th to March 17th. So March 10th is Tuesday. So it's going from Tuesday to Tuesday. Everyone is going to get a copy, a temporary copy of Deathwing Worldbreaker for participation in the pre-release Brawl. So if you open one of the Colossals, it's a good idea. Because if you open any of the Colossals and you don't have Deathwing, it's going to be a bummer. Or any of the Deathwing class Colossals.
Yeah,
you're going to want to play
Deathwing. Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity for them to do that. And they also are being a little bit more strict about what's going to be in the card pool, which is trying to get at the fact that a lot of the, I don't want to say a lot of, but there was an experience with the pre-release Tavern Brawls in the past where it kind of felt like it was more weighted towards the older cards and not letting the new card shine. So they're trying to be a little bit more surgical with the cards that are going to be in the card pool to keep that from happening. So the card pool will be Cataclysm across the timeways, the event set pre-rotation, the core set pre-rotation, and temporary access to Deathwing Worldbreaker. I assume that it's pre-rotation because that's what people have in their card pool.
Right.
And they can't necessarily have the post-rotation core set until they pull the trigger on rotation on the server. So
yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's fine. So what's banned are all legendary cards from across the timeways, just all of them, which
Oh,
again is
interesting.
probably fine.
Oh, that's
Um,
kind of weird though, right? Because that means no fableds,
yeah, all of the Echoes of the Infinite mini set imbue cards
which is
are
Rogue and
yeah,
Death Knight, which is
Yeah.
really just Rogue, which makes a lot of sense.
which I mean, if you're not gonna have Into the Emerald Dream, that makes sense, right? Because Into the Emerald
it's
Dream
not
isn't
even
in the
about that.
is in the pool.
Wicked.
Well, it's also not about that, but also it's weird having the imbue cards but not having the ones for, I guess you still have the quests that are in, I don't know, anyway, whatever.
It's there so that Rogue can't be annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in that way.
And then individual cards that are banned are Twilight Time Hopper, Flux Revenant, Crusader Aura, Deja Vu, good, and Bob the Bartender, also good. We'll have to see how this feels. It does feel like they're listening and that they are trying to improve the experience and make it feel more like its own meta and not like the prior meta with a few new cards. So that's a really good approach. And it's good that they're doing this proactively as opposed to them like banning the quests out of Ungoro in the middle of the Tavern Brawl last time around. They're being more proactive. They're looking ahead to what things could make the experience a little bit less optimal and doing that ahead of time. So good job on the design team for taking that into account. There are also 2 new achievements that you can get from the pre-release Brawl. One of them, if you finish any pre-release Brawl with 6 wins, you will get 2 free tavern tickets and a Cataclysm pack. If you can finish a pre-release Tavern Brawl without losing a game, you will get 2 tavern tickets and you will get the Cataclysmic Brawler card back. So, that is going to be considerably more difficult. But if that is something that you can try to do, and it's something to keep you coming back if you do like get 6 wins, which, you know, we've all kind of gotten 6 wins at one point or another, but going 6-0 is very different than getting 6 wins. So it's cool that they're giving out a card back for that. Though some of the card back completionists might not be happy with that, but there are other card backs that like you probably don't have the golden card back either. And, you know, that's something for you to work towards also. As usual, you know, all the rest of the entry is the same. It's going to replace Tavern Brawl for the week. It's going to be 2 tavern tickets, 300 gold, 400 runestones, and then you'll get 3 to 4 packs depending on how you place. So you'll want to do that. Community Days also will be running March 10th through 14th, concurrent with most of the pre-release Tavern Brawl. If you watch any Hearthstone stream for 2 hours per drop, you'll be able to earn packs. There are going to be 5 across the timeways packs and 3 Cataclysm packs. They're not saying how many drops there are, but you can probably do the math. It's probably either 2 drops or 4 drops because nothing's divisible by 3. But you can go watch some streams and you'll be able to do that. And then we get to the balance patch. So, what they announced in the blog post was just the changes for the cards that are sticking around. There are also some reverts to cards that are rotating out. We're not going to go through those because there's a lot of them, and ultimately those are only sticking around for a week. Generally, these cards are reverted mostly to the state that they were in prior to being nerfed because they're generally fine in Wild. Some of them are reworked because occasionally there are cards that are banned while they're in Standard and they get reworked going into Wild, and some of them are just not going to be fully reverted because they'd still be stupid. So we'll have a link to a Reddit post that has a link to a list of what that is. We're not going to go through all those. We are going to focus on the ones that are changing, that are going to be continuing forward in Standard. The biggest one is, of course, Release the Navigator, which we have known that this was going to be happening. We didn't get details until now of what the changes are going to be to Elise. So first of all the locations durability is going from 3 to 2, which seems fair.
Yep.
3 was a lot. 2 seems more reasonable given that we're going to be, I don't necessarily think we're going to be an overall lower power level, but we're not going to want it to be the Elise show either. So good to tone that down. And then there are 3 specific options that are getting changes. Bursting Geyser, which is the death rattle, deal X damage to all enemies, is effectively getting cut in half. The 10 cost locations going from 10 to 5. The 5 cost locations going from 5 to 3. The 1 cost locations going from 3 to 1.
This is preemptive, right?
Yeah.
Because since it's going down to 2 durability, obviously this would be a much more appealing option since it happens sooner. I don't know if it's actually necessary or if they needed to go this hard, right? Like, I think they could have done 2, 4, 6 or something rather than 1, 3, 5. But fine.
Again, like anything to make at least less prevalent. Also, there's a lot less armor and a lot less healing, as we saw in the theory crafting. It felt like there was a lot less of that. So this much damage would be a lot. I mean, yeah, was 1 more going to make a difference? Probably not. But
I mean, they also could have made it just minions, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're taking this as a one-off clear minions. I feel like that could have been interesting, but
yeah, I mean, this is just easy. It's half, right? So roughly half, rounding up. Fine. Easy.
I don't mind it still going face. I feel like it's frustrating that they nerf so many cards all the time to just be only minions. Like, having it have a little bit of face damage, I don't mind that, but then, yeah, you do have to cut it down. And there might be something coming in a later expansion this year that works well with death rattles that they're just preemptively cutting it down for.
maybe. I'm assuming Deus, but regardless, I think going this low is like, this is an unpickable option. Like, it's not even great to pick up as the contingency for if they destroy my location now. It's just quite bad for the cost that it's on.
So Nesting Grounds, summon X 2/1 Raptors with Rush is going for 10 cost, is going from 6 to 4. For 5 cost is going from 3 to 2. The 1 cost location still is only going to give you 1 Raptor. This is probably fine. Again, that's a lot. It was always a lot. So the 10 cost might actually be slightly better because you generally would get like 4 to 5 on average anyway, because you would have minions on board typically. But I think having fewer of those, especially because the plus attack option isn't changing, I think that's probably good. I mean, again, my opinion is, not necessarily nerf her into the ground, but it was the best thing to do for a long time, and it wasn't close. And I think that making these changes are necessary in general, just to make her a less appealing option. It's like a default way to build decks, even though the deck building is going to be harder too. The more interesting one is Radiant Crystals, which is summon an XX copy of a friendly minion. The stats are getting halved, the same numbers as the damage on the death rattle location, 10 to 5, 5 to 3. The only difference is the 1 cost location will no longer have a copy option, which is probably the biggest change. But the stats on the copy generally weren't the biggest feature of that, as much as that it was a copy. I guess maybe on the 10 cost, having a 10/10 is reasonable, and like sometimes the stats do matter, but the fact, like when we're going into an expansion with Colossals, I don't know how much you care about the size of the copy rather than it just copying something that's going to get all the appendages again. But if you're not getting it on 1, then maybe that's fine. And if you're just seeing less Elise because a lot of the more appealing options are worse and it's harder to deck build with her, then this is just making sure as a safety valve.
So I played a little bit with, this Elise in the theory crafting. And what I will say is the removal of copy from 1 cost is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Because, obviously you can't affect the stats at all. And having just a cheap, you wait to play the location until you're copying the thing. You have to do that, or else people are going to be dying to rag shots very, very easily, right? Because getting double rag, and some of the other ones as well for Demon Hunter as well. I think that it actually makes it makes one cost more appealing for other things because none of the roars got affected. So any board wide buff, like now getting a one cost that buffs the attack of everything for one, really, really good. You know, you can still get that raptor, can still discover a spell, have it cost one less. Right? Like all the power of those things, and you'll now more consistently see those on one cost. The 5 cost, I think, for the last while is the most common pick of location, right? Because you curve it, at least on 4 into 5. And their 5/5 stats on the copy was quite a big deal, I think, particularly in something like a rogue, where you didn't even care what you were copying, you were just making more stats on board for tempo. I think there it matters. 10 has been generally fringe in general, but also the copy stats for Death Knight are a big deal because you're copying a charge. Now 5 cost as your earliest option for picking copy to try and copy something like a Colossal is a big investment because you have to find the 5 mana to spend it. The other thing that you would pair, the Raptors, is now slightly worse in terms of clearing. And only 2 durability means that like you don't get to like you don't get the value of using it a bunch and then finally do the copy on the important thing at the end. Like you just have the two instances. And so I was finding it actually quite difficult to like get a moment to play a 5 cost location, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Since I think the drop from 3 Raptors to 2 Raptors is a big deal in terms of clear power. The 10 cost 6 Raptors, 4 Raptors, I don't think matters because you never had board
No, I don't
space
think
anyway.
so either. Yeah. I was surprised that they decided to go to a smaller copy rather than just like summon a 10/10 golem, summon a 5/5 golem. That's kind of what I was expecting them to do. But, you know, fine, whatever. I think Elise as a whole is probably worse enough that it hopefully shouldn't matter. And if you do manage to land a copy on a Colossal, then, you know, congratulations. But it's not the kind of thing that's going to happen all the time.
Copy is a cool effect. I can see them wanting to keep it because having that option is kind of cool, but they want to make it costly because you have to find 4 mana to pay a lease and 5 mana to pay it to play the location, and you're not guaranteed the copy. So it is dangerous keeping copy around in a certain sense, but doing crazy stuff is part of what people like about Hearthstone, so I can see the argument for trying to keep it while in general making it worse, right? And the only 2 durability I think does matter for all of them, because what was really good about the location was that free value you get on the second and third use, and now you only have the second use.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you only get 1 free push of the button, not 2, which is a big deal. Yeah.
So even the ones that are unchanged, 6 armor, right? Which is just insane, getting 6 armor 3 times. Well, you're only getting it 2 times now. It's like still a good pick. I think it makes like nerfing these ones makes the armor and the discover spell feel more appealing, but you're still not getting them as many times, which is good.
You're getting 2 spells instead of 3. You're getting 12 armor instead of 18. Yeah, it's all like a third less, which is also going to be a little bit less value over the course of the game, which is, I think, bringing at least down that to Earth is probably good for the game as a whole, and especially to make sure that it's not dominating games once we're through rotation.
But I think it is still good enough that if you are just a couple mana costs away from hitting it, that you consider, right? And then particularly for the Deathwing classes, they're like, well, I've got a 10. I've got whatever the slot your Colossus goes into is. Then you think about, okay, what do I have to sacrifice? What things can I put in to make Elise active. But then I think, like, I found myself picking one with some frequency, looking for like Raptor plus attack or Discover plus attack or something like that.
Yeah. Especially Shaman that has a 0-cost spell.
Yes.
It could still do aggravating things for control decks too. I faced a control warrior this morning who just got 6 armor and discover a spell that costs 4 less. Now this would have been considerably worse if they could only do it twice.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like I was as hard as I could trying to pressure them, and they were just sitting there like, it's turn 6 and I have 35 armor and almost full health. Good job.
Well, they're also going to have a lot less armor gen. You know, like they're not going to have safety goggles. They're not, you know, I think they still have shield block, but they're not going to have safety goggles. They're not going to have, well, I guess even Ancient of Yore doesn't rotate. Maybe they're not going to have that much less, but they'll have less.
They won't have Brawl, which is significant.
Yeah, they won't have Brawl, so they're just going to have, you can still hit them in the face, and they're not going to be able to clear as easily. So, and one of the things that they might sit behind, which is Blob of Tar, is also getting nerfed. So Blob of Tar is going from a 4-mana 2/4 that summons a 1/2 Blob with Poisonous and a 1/2 Blob with Taunt to a 5-mana 4/4 with Death Rattle summon a 2/2 Blob with Poisonous and a 2/2 Blob with Taunt. Now, this may seem like a lateral move, but it is going to put it out of range of Ravenous Fellhunter for Demon Hunter, which is a big, big deal. And also, 5 mana is considerably later than 4 mana. I know that sounds obvious when I say it, but like that extra turn really does make a difference in when you can put that down. And it's also going to be competing with other things at 5 mana that you would want to do, like Ancient of Yore, for instance. Like you're not going to be able to play Blob of Tar into Ancient of Yore. Now that's also been nerfed before. That's only giving 3 armor, but it's still a pretty common play pattern with the neutrals, right? And now that's going to be competing with other things at 5 mana, which are going to be more survivability tools. So we won't have Demon Hunter doing the same thing anymore, which is the biggest change here. And then the other control classes can still make use of it, but it's going to be more awkward given the higher mana cost. I
could see this card still being played, but maybe not nearly in like every single deck. The extra attack is actually kind of interesting because it already had Poisonous, so defensively that doesn't actually really make a difference, except for the 2/2 Blob with Taunt instead of a 1/2 Blob with Taunt. But like anything you traded into it was dying anyway, unless it had Divine Shield. So that's actually more relevant for a slightly more aggressive deck that's putting this up to protect their board in a world with somewhat less board clears. We did see we'll get to this, there was a big board clear for Warrior that is kind of the Brawl replacement, but it's 6 mana. And yeah, so I think it's interesting that the buff that they made to Blob of Tar to compensate for putting it to higher damage is actually more offensively than defensively relevant. So they did not buff the health.
Right.
Yeah.
So Creature of Madness is going from a 1/2 to a 1/1. Fine. Like that. I don't know how often it's trading off 2 things. Maybe that, I guess you have like Death Knight things that are trading into it, and you have to use 2 instead of 1, but
I think it matters more than you think, but the decks that played it for the reason of it giving you a guaranteed 3 that's pretty strong will still play it, right? Like the Death Knights that are like, I don't have a lot of early game, but if I go Creature of Madness into a strong 3, that helps shore it up. You're still going to do that. It's still a corpse.
Yeah. I mean, this is less like, oh, this is too strong at 1/2, as much as it doesn't need to be a 1/2 and people will still play it. I think is more. So if it doesn't need to be a 1/2, why should it be a 1/2?
Yeah.
Prescient Slither Drake is going from a 6/9 to a 6/8. This one still confuses me.
It's fine.
I know 8 is less than 9. I have taken enough math classes to be able to see that difference, but when it's a 4 mana elusive minion, I don't like, I don't know how much of a difference that really makes.
See, that's because you don't have minions in Play Wicked.
I guess. Yeah.
That's because you've never tried to trade your way through it, which is, in fact, most of the time the only way that you get through it. So 1 less health does make a difference in terms of how much you're having to trade through this. But we're still playing it, right? They also, this and the next change, Dragon Warrior / Enraged Warrior is not losing much and is gaining stuff. So I can see them wanting to address that a little bit.
I guess you're going to have fewer raptors that you can run into it, but yeah. Stonecarver is also getting changed. It can no longer buff itself, which is appropriate. I think like that play pattern of Sanguine Depths into Stonecarver into you lose is frustrating when you don't have an answer to it. So I think that's appropriate. You at least have to have another minion on board for it to buff, and then you can at least have a puncher's chance of killing the Stonecarver. It still has 4 health, which is still a lot.
Yeah, the fact that you could just have a non-game because they happen to get that 1/2 into Stonecarver, as fun as it is to be the person doing it, probably shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
And Unleash the Crocolisk is going from 1 mana to 2 mana. That's the spell for warrior that you gain 10 armor and then you summon 2/3 beasts for your opponent. That can cost 2. That's fine. Like 1 mana is something that you can just kind of fit into a turn. 2 mana is an actual cost that you have to spend a lot of the time.
It's double the cost, and it is a thing that is comboed with other things, right? You are typically not just playing this unless the opponent's board is full. So it's something that you have to do alongside the whirlwindy board clear.
Shelnado? Is that
one? Shelnado. Yeah. Or, used to be Brawl, but not Brawl anymore.
Yeah.
And...
or the new card, Decimation.
Yes. Yeah, and that costs 8 if you want to do those two together. So
right.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it actually combos really well with Decimation because Decimation is a 6 mana fire spell that says deal 1 damage to all minions, improved for each minion on the battlefield. So that's something you really want to combo together because it adds 2 minions to the battlefield. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and it always clears the beast that you just made.
Yep.
Yeah. So making that cost a little more to combo together, I think, is probably a good idea.
Yeah. Also the draw spell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for glory. Yeah. Ursine Maul, which is the 4 mana 4/2 weapon for Paladin, is changing from after your hero attacks, draw your highest cost card to after your hero attacks, draw a card. So you will no longer be tutoring whatever R9 is into Gelbin or a Paladin. You're just going to have to use Talon like we did in the old days, back when we were walking uphill both ways backwards in the snow. If you want to get him out of your deck.
So this is a hit to Aura Paladin, and also means that you couldn't build an end of turn Paladin because that's the package that we got for Paladin, which we'll talk about, where you're guaranteeing that you get Deos or something. Although I don't know if we even necessarily have to run Deos on that deck, but we'll get there. However, I don't think this card is dead. 4/2 weapons are good. Drawing 2 cards is good. Both of those together is probably still good. So,
and I would often find if I was playing a more controlling kind of Paladin, it's I want to look for my clears. I don't actually need, in older metas, my ceaseless right now when it's unplayable. So I think for certain things where you're not specifically trying to target those higher end things, that it becomes kind of better, right? Because it's still you remove a couple things and draw a couple cards. That's very, very good. Hilariously, its namesake now, it does not work so well with, right? It was, you would find Ursol and you would find a spell for Ursol to play as an aura, and now it's not going to be doing that.
No. It is for anyone who gets frustrated with too much consistency, this is a win for that.
Mm-hmm.
It does reduce the consistency to some extent.
Yeah.
I always have mixed feelings about that, but In this case, probably for the best. And I think Paladin will still be doing just fine.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically a tutor for Paladin. And like there are a number of decks that kind of rely on there being tutors, and having fewer tutors, I think, also will add to more variance and make the games feel a little less samey in general. There are probably some decks that might not work as well because of that, but that might be okay if that's another way to bring the power level down in general, and be able to have more powerful cards without the overall power level of the meta being too high, if that makes sense. We can move on to my favorite nerf of the batch, Deja Vu. Is going from discover a copy of a card in your opponent's hand, it costs 1 less, to discover a copy of a card in your opponent's hand, so it will no longer discount. Which effectively made this spell more or less free because you got refunded the mana on the spell you were discovering.
Yeah.
So now there's an actual cost to doing that, and it's not just getting paid back when you play the spell. Or the card, not the spell.
Well, and crucially, because I think it's like, if it said it costs 1 less if you play it this turn, I feel like that's sort of more acceptable, because it's like, okay, you see a thing in their hand that is the mana that you can play this turn, and you're playing it this turn. But where it got, not so great is, I'm going to do this turn 1, and then I'm going to play your release before you, right? Or whatever, right? You would be using that discount as a sort of ramp, and I think that's not okay. And I think they just either didn't consider that other thing, or just like, we're just going to hit it in general. Yeah. But I think it's a good change, particularly when Rogue as a Herald class, which we'll get into, can steal the Herald cards from other Herald classes. So,
or just steal the Colossi from other Herald classes too.
Yeah, that's the big hit. Like mentioning that however much you've heralded applies to all of your Colossi is brutal. Got a story about that for later. But.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, like, they've put this mana discount on these discover a card spells in the past just to encourage people to play them, so it didn't feel like you were going down in mana just to be able to get access to a card. I think the difference with a card like this is that people are going to play this no matter what. Like, people are going to play Burgle Rogue cards even when they're bad, so you don't need to make up for the fact that it's a bit of a tempo loss too, right? So,
and I don't think this is bad. With the nerf.
No, I don't think the card is bad after that anyway. But you don't need to refund the mana that they're spending on the spell in this case, especially because the card pool that you're going to get is going to be very good on average because it's cards that your opponent chose to put in their deck.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like discover a random taunt. Like then it's appropriate to say, okay, it costs 1 less because you don't know what you're going to get. But when it's cards your opponent put in your deck, they're probably good enough that you don't need to discount them anyway. And finally, Remnant of Rage, which is the Demon Hunter Death Knight card that costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. With Battle Cry, draw 2 cards. It is going from a 6/5 to a 5/4. That's probably okay. That body is very big. It's probably doesn't need to be that big post rotation.
Yep.
It's still a fine card. You're still going to play it plenty. You'll still see it fairly often. I would be surprised if you don't.
Yeah, it's not really the determination of whether you run this or not. It's how easily can you activate it, and are you still drawing 2 cards, which you are. So
yeah. So that's about it. The Rally the Dragonflights web thing is still going on, so go sign up for that. I don't know if we've seen what's actually happening with that or not yet, but
76%.
Yeah, it's the numbers ticking up, so go make it tick up more, I guess. I don't know, but you if the community unlocks everything, then everyone will get a free legendary Abyssian and 2 signature copies of Envoy at the end. I don't know if anything's going to happen in between, but that's going to be what happens at the end if they do that. And then, of course, you can still pre-order Cataclysm. We will be giving out a couple of standard bundles while we're recording the next episode, which will be on Thursday evening, unless we tell you otherwise because one of us got sick again. or ended up with a meeting with the Far East when we're supposed to be recording, one or the other. Yeah.
But yes, should be March 12th, Thursday at about 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. So keep an eye on that. Also keep an eye on our Discord and Patreon. Again, you can just be a free member for standard amount of giveaways there, courtesy of Blizzard.
Okay. So that's enough about what's going to happen in rotation. Let's talk about the rest of the cards that we have not yet seen in the decks in which we played them.
All right, so as we have already talked about, we had the Theory Crafting event on Thursday. That is where select creators and press will play with the new cards against each other in a sort of closed event client. And as always, a big disclaimer, Theory Crafting meta is not the real meta. This is for two reasons. One, it's really early, we haven't figured anything out yet. More importantly, two, there is a rule that you have to play 10 Cataclysm cards in any deck that you run in Theory Crafting. So, while the Cataclysm cards are really powerful, and there were some decks that really easily hit that requirement, there's certain decks from, say, older expansions that might still be powerful that just wouldn't naturally run 10 cards from Cataclysm. It was even a little harder in some ways here because there was fewer neutrals to fill in, so you really, really had to go in on the class sets. So these two things together mean that just because something looks really powerful in Theory Crafting does not necessarily mean it'll be a terror on day one, or conversely, just because it doesn't look that powerful, maybe it just needs to be built in a certain way that doesn't work for Theory Crafting or that we haven't figured out yet.
And there's some decks that you just straight up can't build. Like, there's some that just don't have enough support in the set. Like, there's support in the set to be able to make a certain archetype better, but it's not purely from that set, and you need certain cards. You need enough cards from the older sets, and you just can't build them. So there's some of those too that there's also just not a meta, right? Like, people are just trying stuff, and they're not necessarily thinking about how to build for the other things they're going to run into. They're just building for their own game plans, which is very different than how you build for ladder when there are decks that you know you're going to run into, which either makes certain decks viable or not viable, or changes some of the card choices that you're going to have in your decks too.
And most people are not, like, they're, a lot of these creators are competitive people who want to win, and we are always trying to win our games. But the point is not to win a bunch of games. It's not a tournament, right? The point is to try out new stuff. What you can really get from this is a sense of how packages kind of work together. You can learn about the interactions. You can get a sense of what seems promising, what seems like maybe it won't be all that great. And so it kind of points you in a direction. It's like correlation is not causation. Like, that's not exactly what's happening here, but similarly, of like, it's just pointing in that direction rather than saying something definitively. So we will, rather than going through specifically what all the cards were that were revealed since we recorded last week, we'll just kind of talk about them as we get to them. In Theory Crafting in particular, we got a lot of the Paladin, Warrior, and Shaman sets. And then we also got some important extra cards in several other classes. So, I don't know, should we just kind of go through classes? Who wants to start with maybe overall impressions of what was strong?
I got to reveal the Paladin stuff alongside Zeddy and Clark and Woody Bill and Snowkiss, I believe is her tag, another Chinese streamer that I'm not familiar with. Might be wrong on that name, but again, I think she streams primarily like to a China audience. And yeah, it's built around end of turn effects, which I think that there's something here. It's very much a mid-range deck, right? Which typically in Hearthstone has meant that you can end up being too slow and getting run over by like early board presence. But the fact that like each of these end of turn effects, you must deal with it or it's going to continue happening, right? Like that. Obviously, that's self-evident, but I think previously we've considered end of turn effects through the lens of, okay, what are you getting the one turn that this is happening because it's not going to stick around? But when you have such a high density of them, they like something is going to stick around more than a turn, or else it doesn't matter what minion you were playing, right? And they must be on something heavily controlled, but there's fewer clears, so it more is about your opponent kind of having to pick, okay, what thing am I going to let stick around and get a little bit more value? Because having to clear every single thing every single time, at least if they're reacting to you and they don't already have a big board presence, I think is challenging.
It's not about the first thing you can stick; it's the last thing that you can stick.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, some of these will protect your own minions. So especially when it's doubled with the new aura, Sand Fury aura, 3-mana holy spell that says your minions' end of turn effects trigger twice. So you combine that with Scalebreaker Bulwark, which is a 6-mana 3/6 at the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all enemies. It's really hard if you were not really ahead to begin with, or even if you were but your minions don't have a ton of health. They stick that with Sand Fury aura up, and it's just like really hard to ever get a board to kill the darn Bulwark. Even if it's only dealing 2, sometimes that can still work. Some of these definitely are a lot better when they have the Sand Fury aura up, and that could be a little awkward to set up. And then of course the legendary, if he gets going, will just defend everything with Divine Shields. So that is Nosdormu Bronze Aspect, 5-mana 4/4. At the end of your turn, give your minions Divine Shields. Any that already had one, gain +3/+3 instead. I found when facing this that he's real hard to clear. So even if you don't have Divine Shields, and he does this to himself too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they didn't have Divine Shields before, and even if they don't have Sand Fury aura up, now everything has Divine Shield. It can be hard to clear everything. And if you don't get him, or if they pair it with the taunt that means all of your Divine Shields take 3 hits to break.
I mean,
that's just
breaking.
GG.
Yeah,
that happened.
I mean,
if
you're able to stick that and then play this, you already won. Like that's it. That's just game. You go next.
That is just GG. So okay, I do have to tell this story of what happened to me in Theorycrafting. I was playing a sort of like no hand hunter with all the 1-drops and the hunter spell that replays all of your 1 costs and Neri and all that stuff. This was pretty good. I ran into Brigittius, who was playing the end of turn paladin, and she was beating me. I managed to generate a life cycle, which is a druid 1-cost card, because there's a raptor nest nurse as a hunter minion that generates you a 1-cost spell. So something that they had that was threatening, it might have been Nosdormu himself. No, it wasn't Nosdormu. It was something else that I had to get rid of. I life cycled it, and it turned into the new 4-mana 6/6 that says all your enemies' minions have taunt. But I don't think she quite realized that that's why all my minions had taunt all of a sudden. So she didn't kill it off the turn she could have, which that's the thing I would have done, because we'd never seen these cards before. Then she got Toreth and Nosdormu down, so she could never kill off a minion again. And all of my minions had taunt. And I was also running Gen in this deck, who I discovered will actually trigger while the supply run is combining if the rest of your hand is odd, because it's briefly not in your hand, I guess. So anyway, I was dealing the 3 damage from the hero power and any spells that I could get face. Unfortunately, I still lost because she got the new Earthen Drake, I think it's called, which does 4 damage to the opponent end of turn, and she was doubling that.
Yep.
So there's only so many turns you can take 8 damage at the end of your turn, even if nothing else is coming through. But it was a memorable game. Absolutely. That's not going to happen that often. But in general, the Paladin felt to me like either it just kind of rolled over to aggression if it didn't quite get its engine going, or it was just like insanely powerful. And someone got like 3 13-13s Brawn Redeemers. Tito, if you're still watching, was that you who got like 3 13-13 Bronze Redeemers against us?
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting because there's in neutral, there's the Hourglass Attendant, right? 4-mana 2/4 Divine Shield. End of turn, give all minions in your hand +1/+1. And so that's kind of hard to remove. And then if you curve it into like Nozdormu, or you just like have Sand Fury Aura going, and so it sticks for a couple turns while they buff the whole hand, like 4. You know, a lot of these Bronze Redeemer, the 5-mana 3/3. Oh, it's not a dragon, but at the end of your turn, summon a dragon with stats equal to this minions. Yeah, that's how you end up with a bunch of huge minions in play, because you get that buffed either from Hourglass Attendant, or if you're running the new Paladin location with hand targeting, and you're doubling the end of turn effects. You can get really crazy stuff with Inspiring Maul, a 2-mana 2/2 weapon, Death Rattle, trigger random friendly minions end of turn effect. I underestimated the neutral dragon that deals 4 in combination with those things.
It's a lot of damage.
It's just, I mean, especially because it's not going to miss, right? It's just, that's going to put a big clock on. And when we have a lot less healing, a lot less armor gain, at least neutral healing and armor gain, then that damage can actually stick and make a difference.
Well, I think I don't expect a Paladin to have burst from, you know, just having them all in play or something, right? And then not thinking about how that it adds up with the multipliers, where it's like, okay, well, with Sand Fury Aura, it's 16 total, right? Because it's 4 twice, and then 4 twice again at the end of turn. And so I think, you know, there's going to be instances where people are taken surprised by that. I still, even with that, I don't know if that neutral makes it in or not, because of the whole aggro issue, right? Of not wanting to roll over to aggro. I feel like Spearheart Sentry maybe is underestimated. The 4-mana 3/4 dragon, end of turn, get a random holy spell, reduce its cost by 3. I managed to beat No Hands in a mirror, where that's what I had in terms of an end of turn effect going on, and he had some of the other stuff making big minions, but I just kept being able to use, like, to clear just barely because of the mana discounts on the holy spells.
And it's not just Paladin holy spells, it's any holy spells.
Right.
So you're getting access to like the priest holy spells also, which are generally like, not that the Paladin holy spells are bad, but the priest holy spells are where you're going to get a lot of the burst healing and a lot of the removal, as opposed to the Paladin spells.
And even when they're cheap, then that just means that you're getting a free spell, which is not bad.
Yeah.
And I did get the Shatter, and since it was reduced by 3, didn't care that I couldn't assemble it, because it was like, well, I can just pay 1 mana for each part to summon the drakes, and then give all my stuff +1/+1 Divine Shield. So
got assembled Shatters at home. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think there's something there with Paladin, and it might be one of those things where it's just polarized in a way where it struggles against aggro, but then just has this really powerful mid game that's hard for control to deal with. Well, control and anything else that's going a little bit slow. Like, I think if you're rogue, what do you even do?
You steal removal from another class and deal with it that way. That's what you do.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But like, losing Dubious is huge for rogue, and there's not a lot of other destroy things that you want to include. They do
have that 8 mana spell that summons an 8-drop and destroys a minion. That's staying, isn't it?
It's Dethrone. It's 7 cost, and I think it is staying, but like, that's not great.
They got crap. It's fine.
It's not called Go for the Throat, but that's the magic card.
That's the
but that's always good. Garona's Last Stand, Corona's
To
Triumph.
destroy a legendary one? Yeah.
Yeah, that I think is going to see play because there's a lot of legendaries that people are interested in playing, and 2 mana destroy it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I can see how you
Yep.
could get to go for the throw from there. Yeah.
I'll say one small thing about Sand Fury Aura, which is, and this is clear from reading the card, but I did it wrong anyway. They don't stack because it says your minion's end of turn effects trigger twice, not an additional time. So you can put
Right.
both Sand Fury Auras up at the same time if you want, but you shouldn't because they don't stack. So
Yeah. It's not like getting 2 acceleration auras where it says you make an extra mana crystal and then it triggers twice.
Right.
Twice means twice, and no amount of 3s are going to make it more than twice.
I still think you run Deos because, again, if you ever stick anything, it's an additional way of doubling things on top of Sand Fury Aura. But
yeah, that does stack. So that is worth knowing. But yeah, I think that this is a deck that has a lot of promise. We'll have to see exactly how we end up building it because there are actually quite a few options. And I was impressed with the fact that we were spending a lot of time worried about how do we get Divine Shields ahead of time so that Nozdormu is buffing things that already have Divine Shields. But if you get him behind a Righteous Protector, that's awesome. But you don't even have to, is the thing that I discovered.
Or you have a Sand Fury Aura up and then he just puts the Divine Shield on and then gives the buff.
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Right. To everything, including himself. So that is Paladin. How about Warrior here? I think there's a lot of options going forward for Warrior, and I was definitely impressed with some of these cards. Torch is a new 1-mana fire spell. Deal 8 damage to a damaged minion. Return this to hand with any excess damage. Now, it only works against minions that are already damaged, so you do have to pair it with some sort of effect. But there are actually quite a few whirlwind effects now that will be in standard, really quite a lot. And once you get that train going, 1 mana, deal 8, and then flexibly you can 1 mana kill more things. It's kind of Seabreeze Chatless-esque once it gets going, in that it can just clear a lot of stuff if you keep spending 1 mana. So I think that's a powerful card, but I like that you do have to invest a little bit in that package instead of it just being an insane control warrior card all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was nervous about the damage requirement, but as you say,
it's not
there's enough whirlwinds that it's quite good.
Yeah.
There's the weapon that does a whirlwind. There's the new location.
There's a new spell called Searing Fissure that does 1 damage to all minions. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. That costs 2 mana. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to damage it, and it wasn't hard. Yeah.
It was not hard.
Yeah, it was not hard to get that turned on. It's more just why can't I target it? Oh, right, it has to be damaged. Let's just damage it and then kill it. It took an extra 5 seconds to remember that you needed to have it damaged in order to be able to kill it. But after that, it was fine. The more interesting thing, I think, as far as Warrior was concerned, felt like it was Destructive Blaze, which is the new Grim Patron, which is a 5 mana 3/3 elemental. After this survives damage, summon a Destructive Blaze. Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. You can make a lot of those. And then when your opponent clears them, they're going to take damage. Especially if you're able to clear all the other minions out of the way first. And we played a few games with, I think it was Enzo's list that we were playing, where this felt, again, it's theory crafting. I have no idea if something like this is going to work in a real meta where people are trying to kill you with hammers, but it does feel like it's something worth exploring once we get to a real meta. There was enough support there that it was not hard to get a full board of these, and then it felt like playing Arcwing Mage again, just with redder cards.
Yeah, it is a little similar to that, where you don't necessarily you can kill them just with the Destructive Blazes, There were videos going around of people doing that with like Shellnado. Do note for that, they don't like die, then summon a new thing. So you can't necessarily get as many on a full board, if that makes sense. But you don't need to. You can still do a ton of damage if you have a full board of these things. So you can kill, but also if you just get several of them and then you say to your opponent, like, well, you have to clear these and they're going to do more damage. Have fun with that. As part of a deck that's also doing damage in other ways. Like, that seemed effective as well.
And you have to clear them in a way that's actually going to kill them outright and not do more damage to them and then make more of them in the process.
Can you imagine being another warrior and you just have Shellnado in your hand and you're like, rip?
Somebody's gonna make that mistake and it's gonna end up untrolled in like day one. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Day one, for sure. Absolutely. Also, these will all go off if you do manage to get it out with Rag out. I don't think that's happening that often. I think normally Rag is causing the death rattles of his heralds.
Yeah.
But it does work if any have stuck.
Yeah. I mean, if you have them that stuck, you're probably trying to make more of them rather than trying to play Rag on that board. But yeah.
I don't think they really go in the same deck. I will be curious whether Erupting Volcano goes in the Destructive Blaze deck or not, because, you know, it does take up a space on the board. I think the question with Destructive Blaze is, like, how draw heavy can you make it? How all in can you go? Like, to be able to say, all I'm doing is focusing on a good Destructive Blaze turn, or do you say, well, I'm more of an enraged tempo deck that sometimes does Destructive Blaze and other times, you know, just does a bunch of damage with fire spells? Erupting Volcano, 3 mana, 3 durability, location, deal 3 damage randomly split among all enemies, or among enemies. If you've played a fire spell this turn, deal 3 more. So it's 18 damage split 6/6/6 on 3 activations if you build your deck to consistently trigger it. And there's a fair number of fire spells for Warrior right now. So that's not, like, crazy to do. And obviously Torch helps. It's a little awkward with Torch because, like, since you have to hit something damaged, if your best way to damage something is Erupting Volcano, then you're having to use it to activate the Torch and not getting the extra shots. But, I mean, you can do stuff like Searing Fissure, deal 1 damage to all minions, and then Erupting Volcano clears up the rest of it, and while also putting some face damage. It's like, yeah, it's a different kind of Horizon's Edge. It's Horizon's Edge with different incentives, right? Horizon's Edge was 5 instances of 3, so it was 15. This is 18, so a little more if you can, you know, make sure it's active every time.
Yeah, and Welcome Home is still going to be in standard post-rotation. I don't know if you want to go there, but you might.
You might. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of damage.
You can tutor fire spells with Living Flame.
Yes. We're seeing that a lot.
There's other stuff that works. You know, Acolyte of Pain is a great draw engine for this that is staying in standard.
Yep.
Time Twisted Seer is the 1 mana 1/3 dragon from the mini set that has spell damage +2 while damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll have to see whether, going all in on sort of a burn and Destructive Blaze package is the way to go, or if we're doing maybe like some sort of Enrage where we're running like Era of Hereafter, which is a 5 mana 2/6 taunt battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each damaged minion.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that's from Across the Timeways, and that can be pretty good. It can be sort of awkward. Or we're doing like dragons and we throw this in. Enzo has like 5 cooks with it in the Discord. One of them, he was like, what if we put in Nablaya, the Watcher, who will give them all rush?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, assuming they stick and you haven't won. But
assuming they stick and you haven't won. Yeah. His later ones took out Nablaya, so maybe he decided it wasn't necessary.
Next year, they need to bring Warsong Commander back into core. And
then we can really cook. Yeah. And also, the Ragnaros Heralds seem strong too. But we were actually seeing more people playing around with the Enraged stuff.
Yeah, we didn't even see that many rags. We saw more people playing with Grim Patron.
Maybe you didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was later in the evening. People had gotten bored of Rag by the time that I got home, I guess.
So I faced Nosferatu, who you may recognize from Jordan videos. He's a Russian streamer, a few times over the course of the day. Some of which were on a more controlling Herald warrior. And yeah, so the warrior specific Herald cards: Scorching Ravager, 4-mana 4/3 dragon, Battlecry, Herald Ragnaros, give the soldier rush, which is pretty good because not so great if this is your first Herald, of course, but even that, it's a 2/1 death rattle, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. If you've gotten up to 4 2s and deal 4 to a random enemy, like that's yeah. And then the War Axe, 3-mana 3/2 Battlecry, Herald Ragnaros, just solid. It's nerfed Fiery War Axe, but with the with the Herald. And then Decimation is the new clear that we mentioned earlier. Fire spell, deals 1 to all minions and is improved for each minion on the battlefield. Includes your own. So pretty solid against stuff that's going wide, right? They have 5 minions. You'll deal 5 to all of them. It can be a bit trickier situational, but I think worth running. And because there's a bunch of fire spells in Warrior, yeah, you do end up running that 2-mana 3/2 elemental that draws a fire spell. I mean, he was also running Erupting Volcano, even though it was a more controlling strategy, because it's the kind of controlling strategy that is happy to use Erupting Volcano either to help with clears alongside Torch or to just hit you, right? You're willing to run the 2-mana deal 2 fire spell that discovers a warrior minion with a dark gift, because those are pretty good.
Running that even without the volcano in standard right now, so yeah, why wouldn't you?
So yeah, it seemed quite good, and of course Xavius was in there. He got summon a 2/2 copy on Rag, and I lost that game because the way that works, I don't even know if they were 8/4s. They might have just been 4/2s. But the way that works is the Rag summons its 2 appendages, the 2/2 copy summons its 2 appendages, and they both trigger the death rattles at end of turn.
That seems okay.
So it is 2 extra things to trigger the death rattle of, and they all trigger an extra time.
And this is why they nerfed the copy on the 1-mana location.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's even more disgusting than our opponent who got Alakir, the Shaman Colossal, with Reborn from Xavius. So Alakir is a 2/8, Colossal +2, Rush, Wind Fury, Battlecry, get 2 minions with cost equal to this minion's attack. They cost 1, but basically its appendages buff its attack, so it's a giant Wind Fury.
Mm-hmm.
And if it has Reborn on it, then it kills 2 things, dies, summons more stuff, has even more attack. We lost that game also.
Yeah, Xavius is going to do a lot of silly things if they land a good Dark Gift on the Colossals. Yeah, a lot of the Dark Gifts are just quite filthy.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess moving on to Shaman. Go wide stuff is Shaman.
Yep.
The Shaman looked good. I didn't actually play as much myself because I ran into a bunch, but it seemed like the Shaman was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how we're building it yet. But the way that the heralds, we said that Alakir is basically a Rush Wind Fury 2/8 who gives you some minions in your hand. His appendages and also his soldiers say adjacent minions have +1 attack. And so you can position things cleverly to make good trades during the game if you definitely want to have multiple minions. And it kind of interacts in an interesting way with the Herald cards. One gives you 2 1/1 elementals with Rush. They are to your hand, but that's actually kind of good because then you can place them the way that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Skywall Sentinel, which is a 0 attack taunt, but he heralds Alakir, so he's not actually 0 attack, unless they manage to kill off the soldier without killing off the sentinel, which we did do on occasion, and then the sentinel is kind of sad sitting there with 0 attack. But yeah, the like transform everything on the board spell, there's a 4-mana spell that like transforms everything to something at the same cost, and when they die it resummons the original thing. That seems like it could be powerful to me.
Ascendance, yeah, that was the there's not an we can't fit all of the if you're watching the stream, we can't fit all of the shaman cards in the stream all at the same time. But yeah, Ascendant, that card is gross. Transform all friendly minions into ones that cost 1 more. They summon the originals when they die. So you have all your minions. Generally, you're going to get some value trades. And then you play Ascendants, you transform them, you get whatever value, and then once they get resummoned, they're going to get resummoned at full health. That card was disgusting when we played against it, and it's very hard to clear it.
It's really good on the Rogue Colossus.
Yes, I remember you playing it with
Why are you
Sinestra.
like this?
And that was real good. Yep. You got some real value out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Alakir, it's funny because you get 2 minions with cost equal to this minion's attack, which fully upgraded is 10. They cost 1. So it's not as crazy as Rag doing it on 8, right? Because Rag just tries to kill you, whereas Alakir, rushes into things and makes a big board. Yeah, quite overwhelming when you factor in the 10 cost minions that are also put into your hand.
And you could hit Morchok that way, in which if Morchok costs 1, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So Morchok is I didn't really see this played, but he's a 10-mana, 10/10 elemental with Battlecry. Draw a card and reduce its cost by 10. Repeat this with excess cost reduction. So he keeps drawing cards and discounting them until he's discounted you 10 mana worth. So I like that a lot, because it's not just like you have to pack your decks with expensive things and hope, right? But it seems like the real way you want to play him is because you got him off of Alakir. And then
Yeah, it's a lot better if it costs 1. Yes, that is better than paying 10 for that.
I did see someone running this naturally with, was it Viranoth? And so, they were just like trying to survive to get to enough of those, extra buffed minions from Viranoth, and then played Morchok to puke a bunch of them out. It also then contributes 10 towards the Viranoth, right? Which otherwise can be tricky to fulfill. So,
yeah. I mean, we did try a game with the Viranoth. With a Viranoth deck. I think it was a Viranoth Shaman, actually. And
no, it was a Demon Hunter.
Oh, was it Demon Hunter? Okay. I know I read it and saw that it was a battle cry. I had it in my head that it was a started game effect, because if you're going through all that work to get it to happen, I can't imagine having to draw the minion and then play it. But that sure is how that works. And that is a lot worse when you're relying on drawing one legendary minion out of your deck in order to get the buff that you've worked that hard in deck building to set up. It's great when you do it, and it means that the stats are distributed across whatever's left of your deck. But the games where that is on the bottom are going to be very, very sad when you're playing a lot of bad cards in order to be able to get that buff to turn on, and then you draw it when it's too late.
Well, I think there might be a deck that's not playing a bunch of bad cards to make it work. I don't know that the deck that we were playing was quite it, because when we tried, it was sort of like a Fel Herald Demon Hunter, and definitely the regular Fel Herald Demon Hunter felt better. Yeah, it seemed like it was mostly a meme, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if someone comes up with something where like it is easy enough to get there in the deck building that you just run it, and then sometimes it's really good.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of card where, because they have this amazing UI for it, which this would not be worth it otherwise, you just kind of, you're making a deck that has a bunch of minions, and you just put Viranoth in to check, like, as your 31 card, to say, okay, how close are we?
Yeah.
And if you're too far, it's like, well, this isn't that's not going to work. But if you're kind of close and you're like, okay, maybe we sort of strategically add, some giants or some other things to get to that mana cost requirement, then you're making a deck where it's like, this is not a Viranoth deck. This is a deck that if I'm against something slower where I need a little bit more value, I can keep Viranoth and it'll make me have more staying power against something slower. Without an ability to tutor Viranoth specifically, you're not gonna, and even if you could, like, turn 6 is pretty late.
Yeah.
I think it's tricky to build something that's like, oh, this is a Viranoth deck.
Yeah. I wonder if you'd have to do it in Rogue with Garona as the only other legendary in the deck, so that if you get Kingslayers, then you would be guaranteed to draw it off of one of the swings.
That is a way you could try it. You'd have to make some real sacrifices to make that happen, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, no other legend, and even then, we no longer have a way to tutor Kingslayers. So
right, because we're losing Raiding Party. But at least it's a second draw, right? Like, at least you're getting it to 1 in 15 instead of 1 in 30.
Yeah.
That's how dire the situation is. So that I'm thinking about how to get Rogue to work with it, because it's the only way I can think of that would get it to work.
Well, what I had fun with was Druid. This is the one deck that I was really positive with. If Tito's still in the chat, sorry Tito. He was trying to play a cool big Druid thing, and I just murdered him on like turn 4. With Token Druid. So there's a new card called Crystal Spine Cub. It is a 1-mana 1/2 beast. It is an adorable little teddy bear thing. It says whenever you spend your last mana crystal, gain +1/+1. Now, he does not, if you play him on 1, he does not buff himself, but if you like coin or innervate and then play another 1-drop, he sure buffs then. If you get a Mirdrasil, that finishes out your mana, and then you activate it. That gives you more mana, you finish that out, then he buffs again.
This sounds like the plot of a new Five Nights at Freddy's game.
So, I had one that was like 8-9 on turn 5 or something. Maybe turn 6. Yeah. You pair this with a bunch of like Treant cards.
Iridescent Flitterwing is kind of the boogeyman of the deck, right? The 5-mana 4/5 elusive dragon. Why is it elusive? At the end of your turn, give your other minions +1/+1. That thing was annoying as hell.
Yes.
Yep. Iridescent Flitterwing. I kept trying to type Flutterwing into the client and then it not showing up. It is Flitterwing. That is very good if you suck a board and if you have some eggs, right? If you have Ravenous Flock, which summons 3 2/1 hatchlings at the start of your next turn, which is actually good because it guarantees that you can buff them then. If you have Wildwood Circle, which gives your minions Death Rattle Summon a 2/2 Treant, that can be good even if that's the Shatter. The other half of it summons 2/2 Treants. This whole deck is pretty cheap, so it's not that hard to combine, and even if you don't, it might be worth it anyway. Hatchery Helper buffs your minions. Panther Mask was an interesting way to add draw. And it can also like turn an egg into a threat. Twilight Egg was kind of fun for that, because it's like, well, you could ignore it, but then the whelp inside it gets bigger. This is a 1-mana 0/2 Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 whelp. Gains +1/+1 at the start of your turns. Note, I misread this card. I thought the egg gained the stats. It is the whelp inside the egg that is gaining the stats. So, do keep that in mind. And Splintered Reality, summon 2/2 Treants. They gain +1/+1 for each friendly Treant that died this game. That's a 4-mana card. And then Wicker Fang. It might even be worth running fewer eggs to try to tutor this with the Egg Bearer that draws a 0 mana.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. The eggs are pretty good, though, so we'll have to experiment. But Wicker Fang is the one where after one of his legs gains stats, Wicker Fang gains them too.
Yeah. I don't like that guy.
He has 4 legs, and if you buff the whole board... Now, it did seem like, from what I saw in Theorycrafting, that doing this with the Druid quest was not worth. Because losing a card in your opening hand as an aggro deck is terrible.
Yep. That time-old problem.
It's hard to get it full, like your whole board full. So when I saw that on like the theory casting channel, it seemed like people were just out of gas and having a hard time finishing the quest. But when I played it without the quest, I went 4-0. That's still a pretty small sample size, but I have some wacky screenshots from it. So this is probably going to be my day one. Maybe even just the same list. I'll have to experiment.
Also, if you curve Flitterwing into the Colossal, that's just gross.
It's so gross. And Flitterwing's, yeah, not the easiest to clear. Felwood Treant is pretty good. That's the battle cry you gain a temporary mana crystal. If you spent 4 mana while holding this, it's permanent. That's usually, it turned out, not that hard to get it active. If you draw it later, you just play anything, then you play it.
It's also cool because it feels like it is a ramp spell that, like, you are happy to run in this kind of aggressive deck because it's a minion and the requirement isn't casting spells, it's just spending mana.
Yeah.
So you can just do what you were doing and then still ramp. Like, I'm quite impressed that they made such a unique ramp card that hasn't been done before, because it feels like
12 years later, when we've been ramping since Wild Growth and Innervate.
Right.
Like,
it sort of feels like, well, how many ways can you reinvent the wheel in this? Well, they made a good one, and they made one that works for an aggro deck and is also a treant for, added nice effect.
Yep. For that splintered reality effect.
I believe works really well with Cub too, because you could spend your last 2 mana on a turn to play the treant, and then it would give you the crystal. Does that work?
That does work because it does not say an empty crystal. It is a full crystal. And so, yes, you can sort of finale it, right? If we remember back from Festival of Legends, and then you get an extra crystal, and if you're running a bunch of 1-drops, which because you're an aggro deck, you probably are, then you can get that Crystal Spine Cub even bigger, and they must clear it. Yeah, I think aggro decks are an important part of the ecosystem of Hearthstone. They help prevent absolute greed fests. So I'm excited for this. I did see a little bit. I saw on the theory casting stream someone doing growth stuff with the big druid. We did not play it because Edel was driving for most of the time that we were on theory crafting, and I suggested it, and she was like, "Absolutely not. I am not doing that."
What even is there for a big druid? I don't understand what new stuff arrived for a big druid.
It's like the Marithra.
nature finds a way.
Oh, that's not a big. You just put that in the. You just put that in a druid. That doesn't have to be a big druid.
I see. Okay. Well, I can't remember the details of. Someone was doing something where they ended up with a lot of 1-mana dragons, but maybe it was just the top end of something. I didn't see the whole beginning of the game, so maybe it was just the top end of a more aggressive deck that just had that also.
Yeah, my understanding of Marithra is just like, rather than playing a like really aggro heavy druid, you just do a dragon druid, which is more mid-rangey, and you can play Marithra in that. Like, it wasn't a big druid. I still had Crystal Spine Cub. I still had like early plays in terms of the dragon that gives you a dragon that costs 3 or less, and the one that refreshes your mana. Like, so I still had early stuff. It was just not.
It was a big enough druid. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. In terms of like other stuff, I didn't play a bunch of mage, but I feel like we all faced a bunch of mage, and it seems good.
Well, we had our court mandated 1 game of control priests, and which with all of the healing, improving the healing and everything, and it felt like we were doing really well, and like it's like, oh, we're just back up to 30, like
every friggin' turn.
They're hitting us in the face. We're healing right back up every turn. We're invincible, and then we died from 30. And
it did feel like they had to work for that. I will say they were saving up for several turns.
Yeah.
It was the punish for not having a win condition, right?
Yeah. Or armor. I mean, like, theoretically, if I was going to build that again, I'd probably put Ancient of Yore in it just to be able to get a little bit of additional armor into the deck. But
they still might have been able to deal with that, right? Because part of us having to part of us healing to full is that we had to heal to full, right? They were dealing damage along the way. So in that situation, then they just punch off the armor and then wait.
Yeah, but they also like they had spell damage, and then they were running like the Murloc who makes a rock, and they were running a lot of stuff that was generating damage, and just got there with 30 damage worth of spells over the top, and like, oh yeah, we're dead. Okay, cool game.
If you have the spell damage dragon out, it's +2, and Arcane Flow once assembled, that makes it 6 and then 4, right? Like, that's a Pyroblast for 4 mana.
Yeah, I was impressed with Arcane Flow, which is their new Shatter card. 4 mana, deal 4 damage, deal 2 damage to all enemies. And that pairs really, really well with Spellweaver's Brilliance, a 10 mana arcane spell, summon a 6/6 dragon, costs 1 less for each damage you dealt with spells that turn, because then it's just free.
Yeah. And I don't remember if they were running Winter Spring Whelp, which is a 1 mana 1/2 dragon, discover a 1-cost spell from any class, but there are enough of those that deal damage that also can contribute to the cause.
And you get spell damage from Archmage Calic, who we had talked about before, from Unstable Spellcaster, who we talked about before, which is the elemental that doubles himself if you've dealt damage with a spell this turn. So it seemed like people were landing on a really kind of burn list.
Yeah.
That runs enough burn to just not just roll over to aggro, but then it can, if given a lot of time, assemble a decent amount of damage. Quite a decent amount of damage to kill slower decks. So it definitely seemed like there could be something there with Mage. I think people were pretty down on Mage, and we'll have to see. But it felt pretty good at Theorycrafting.
Yeah. I think we haven't had a Mage like this in a while, and so it's nice to have it back. And yeah, it feels good because all the things that make spell damage more effective that are nice, right? Hitting multiple targets, right? Also makes it good into like other aggressive things, because you're like, well, I'm gonna kill a bunch of their minions at once. It had that feel of like, yeah, I clear your board and make a free 6/6. I think it's sadly not a Syndragosa deck, which bums me out, but maybe not so many other people, right? Like, I think just because it's 3 card slots, right? Like, it's a thing where you might have put in just Syndragosa, but since it's Syndragosa and Malagos and the Resurrect spell, like, the Resurrect isn't going to be targeted. It's not going to be as good because you're running these other dragons. And the Malagos often, I feel like, is hard to make work because there's no discount in there. Like, Syndragosa is the one that's great because it discounts the arcane spells by 2. And so maybe you just ignore the package altogether and just...
Yeah. And we haven't even looked at what the pool is for arcane spells in post-rotation. Like, we haven't even...
It's fine, right?
Yeah.
It's totally fine. It's just that the only way that people were messing around with Syndragosa was with get a free, buy one, get one free, is double up on Syndragosa and pop off.
Oh, yeah. That's
not happening.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, the arcane pool is there, but it's just the rest of it. Yeah, in terms of other classes, what's there?
Yeah, I mean, Death Knight's got a lot to experiment with, and I think Death Knight just always takes a while to figure out because there's so many rune combinations that channel people's creativity. So you'll have people messing around with Double Unholy because of the news card Chow Down. Summon 5/5/4 undead drakes, spend 8 corpses to give them rush.
That's pretty good, I will say. When I played that, it felt good.
Yeah, and there's another thing, Talanji's Last Stand, that we mentioned last week. There's incentives for Double Unholy, and I think from Across the Timeways, the 6 mana spell with Rewind.
Oh yeah, the one that makes the 4 3/2s.
Yeah. So there's certainly something there for Double Unholy. Whether you're pairing with Frost or Blood, I don't know. If you are pairing with Frost, we additionally got Blackwing Experiment, which is 2 mana 3/1 undead dragon. Death Rattle, get a 2-cost spell that deals this minion's attack damage. So baseline 3, but along with like the Mana Crystal Refreshing Dragon and the one that buffs in your hand or board. There's like a lot of nice synergies that Death Knight has with, messing with its minion's attack. And I like this as a payoff for that kind of stuff.
Plus, you also have Onyxia for like any of the, if you're holding a dragon stuff. Death Knight.
Yeah, Onyxia is double blood, so it's going to limit what things you can pair her with.
One thing to note, if you're watching Theory Crafting, you might see some cards have different rune requirements on them. That is not intentional and will not be in the patch.
Oh, okay, that's a big deal. I thought like those just were randomly getting changed. So, okay, that actually is kind of helpful.
Yeah, so runes are staying the same. In Theory Crafting, they were different. I don't know why, but they said like, hey, this is not intentional and they will not be changed.
Yeah, there's certain things where it was like something that was a frost and unholy was just frost. Some things that were runeless suddenly had a rune. It was weird, but
it was weird. I'm not quite sure what happened there. If there was just a branch where they were playing stuff and it got pushed or what, but it was not intentional. Other things that you see, like all of the wild reverts and stuff were live in the Theory Crafting client, so you might have seen people exploring those, but there's also a Reddit post, which is also linked in our show notes, which has all the details of all of the wild changes, reverts. It wasn't every single card that they reverted, but there was a lot of nerfs that happened in the past couple of years, so there was a lot of changes back.
Some cards just did crimes and need to continue to pay for their sins, and that's okay.
Yeah. I did see a lot of like Onyxia Deathwings. We didn't play it. I don't think. Did we play it?
I don't remember playing it, no.
I think Edel did.
I played a lot of it. I was really trying to refine it, and towards the very end, I went up against Warshak, who had the most disgusting steals playing a Sinestra rogue that could possibly, like, I think both games managed to steal Onyxia.
Yeah.
One of them, twice deja vu'd the thing that discounts Deathwing, so he had a 0 mana Deathwing.
Deathwing's good. Although it is a little bit of the like playing the second Deathwing can help counter the first Deathwing, like Ziliax, like the second Ziliax counters the first Ziliax.
Yeah. I believe Warshak also had Imbue, and so the second game I died to deja vu'd my Ysera breath, right? That deals 2 mana, deal 5 to everything, and use that to activate a Grommash for lethal, alongside something else. It was
be sick.
You can go watch the Warshak game on YouTube.
I'm glad I went to bed before that, because I would have gone to bed right after that if I hadn't.
What just happened? What the hell was that? And he was like, those were YouTube games. That's what happened.
That was content. Thank you for being the other side of the content, Edel.
Yeah, it was rough, but both. Yeah. Oh, he was also running the thing that eats cards from your hand, and one of the times he bounced it so that I couldn't get them back. Right, so it ate my Murzond.
Oh, of course.
Which I have there to, after gaining a bunch of max life, to then go back up to max life. And yeah, both games I just, did not manage to do that before it either got eaten or I died from life total I did not expect to die from.
Other than that, it seemed like a good deck.
But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah, I like the Death Knight stuff. The only thing is I think it's tricky to know when to pay the life to play stuff the turn you get it, and when to be like, no, I actually can't afford to play the life. I need to hold this back, even though I want the tempo. And like, you can only get so much benefit from the Onyxia the turn you play her, right? Like, it's probably going to be
board space.
Gain 16, because yeah, I think the most it could be is gain 24, because if you play her the same turn as another Herald that's also getting you an 8, then you can play 3 8s for 8 health, which, you know, you add to your max instead. Which is a lot, to be fair. But that's kind of like everything going right to make that happen. You know, in the case where you haven't heralded enough, it's trickier. We don't have access to Corpse Explosion, but it feels like you give up a lot to have to put in Pyro Poison.
Yeah.
So even though, you know, it's possible to have that really good clear, that means you're not running as many leech cards or something like that. Like, there's really, it's a kind of tight list because you're fitting in all the Herald things and Deathwing. And so if you want to have also a emergency escape button of Pyro Poison, then it gets really tough to fit all the things in that you would want to fit in. Yeah, that's how it felt.
Okay, so what you're saying is that I can relax, hopefully, about Blood Decay. No.
Somebody will figure out a control deck. It might not be, well, it might take, Death Knight might take an expansion off from being a control terror. It will, they're not going to be able to help themselves for giving Blood Decay stuff to do. That should have gone to Priest.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Priest, I'm not quite sure how we're building it. It does feel like there was a lot of healing. Having the flexibility to sometimes turn that healing into damage worked well from a control perspective in terms of removal. It could be part of how we're actually finishing out the game. I tried to build a more aggressive Priest using some of that stuff, and like some of the hand buff stuff that we got from across the timeways. And I did have some games where I got some really impressive things actually with that Divine Augur. But like, I could not deal with the Divine Shields of the Paladin with that. And it was a little slow versus like the Hunters. We should talk about Hunter in a second. I thought the sort of like 1-drop no hand Hunter was good, and the Dragon Hunter was good, and maybe they're the same deck. Yeah, but so I don't think that sort of hand buff Priest is probably quite it, although I think I did destroy Tito with that one also. Sorry, Tito. To be fair, he destroyed us in other games. It seemed like we ran into him quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Heal Priest did feel like there was something maybe there. It's just so all in on drawing the location in order to be able to finish out the game. And there's not really any way to tutor the location. Well,
I'm not sure that it is. I think, like, I don't know whether we're using Alexstrasza, whether we're using Medivh, but I almost got the sense that it was more powerful, not trying to build. And I always want to make it tempo, and I always want to try to do that, but I think it's actually more of like, oh, this is a way that you can take all the healing you're running anyway and use it as removal sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Priest might benefit from not having to have 10 new cards.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
And being able to use this healing upgrade, but then have, you know, figure out what the win condition is going to be and kind of put something together.
Yeah, you kind of had to go all in on the healing, on the healing upgrade thing because of the 10 new cards.
Yeah.
For theory crafting, that's true.
But I mean, there might be something interesting with the fact that Quest enables Medivh's Triumph, right? Having access to a 1 mana.
Yeah.
Deal 4 to all minions. Felt good.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I do wonder if, like, that was one thing that a lot of people were doing, was doing that with the Imbue package. And I wonder if that's just like one trick too much, because that's a lot of stuff that you're having to put in to the deck that isn't really, it's kind of, well, I don't know what the plan is, so I'll let Yogg take the wheel and figure out the plan for me. And I do wonder, maybe outside of a theory crafting, if the quest for the Medivh's Last Stand is probably correct, even though it's hurting you in the mulligan. But I think the imbue stuff might be a little bit too much, just because, I mean, if you're just running like the one that gives everything less attack, that's probably fine.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know that you want to be running like the 4/4 Divine Shield and the 2 mana 2/3 and stuff like that on top of it.
I think the 4/4 Divine Shield didn't make it in, but I think they did have the 2s, and I think you can also safely cut all 4 of the 2s. And just have the one that impacts the board. And if you then hero power into other imbues, which you can do, then fine. But it sort of seemed like it is worth it just to have I can Medivh's Triumph for 1 whenever I want.
Yeah.
And like, maybe the quest is part of a slower priest win condition, because we can't turbo it as easily without like Nightmare Tea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got the name of that wrong, Nightshade Tea. But you will finish eventually if you're going long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it is a powerful minion.
Yeah.
And we might have some way to copy it.
We might see people go more heavily in on the quest because Priest got the copy card, right? Where you give
That's
it
true.
summon a copy and give +2/+3 elusive. So, there might be something in that direction as well.
Yeah, maybe you're doing like Ysera in that deck with Dios and the quest also, the quest reward also. If you're getting that late, then maybe it's reasonable to say, okay, well, I'm going to draw Dios and I'm going to have them double up on the death rattles when I play them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a battle cry too, that's summoning the copy, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, so you get a copy when it's played, but then you can make another copy with the spell, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, does Dios give you a third one on board when you...
Oh, yeah, but you would Dios with Umbra, right?
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. Yeah, either way. I mean, sometimes you don't get them all together and you just kind of need to go, but...
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I mean, maybe that's what you end up doing, right? Yeah, I think the heal upgrade package is kind of mutually exclusive with Imbue, just because you do want to keep the healing hero power if that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, that's 1 mana fireball, or 2 mana fireball rather, like with the location up. Once you've gotten both of the cleansing clerics down.
With these mages, though, maybe you just have to run Story of Amara. Maybe it's time.
I mean, it might be time. I might actually agree with you at that point. Like, that's actually a legitimate use case for it potentially.
And it might be like 3 10s is too many, so you can't run Medivh, but you run Story of Amara as your 10 so that you can play Elise.
Maybe.
Yeah, and Elise could still potentially give you a copy, or you could use the 1 cost. Like, there are things that you could do with it.
I will say double damage on 2 flash heals with the location is pretty hard to pass up.
In terms of Medivh? Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
But it is, well, I think it's just we haven't quite figured out how to build it yet.
Yeah.
Hunter, like I mentioned, seemed, if we're okay moving on to that, seemed pretty strong. They confront the Tolvir, which replays all your 1 costs. Real good. You can just play that with, like, board. Like, you can play Neri in a more board-based deck. This seemed to be one way to do it.
Yeah.
We saw Sidisi trying everything, of course.
Yeah.
You could just get some doubled stats minions, and then when they clear you, you're just like, hey, I drew a bunch of cards, summoned an entirely new board, and did a little bit of damage to your face or your minions.
Probably played some deja vus along the way that you got from the thing that gives you a 1 cost card from any class, and then replay some of those, and you just refilled your hand along the way. Yeah, it seems okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm convinced that card does not belong, but yeah, Hunter seemed good to me. Like, I think there will be a Hunter deck that is meta, and I'm unconcerned about the future of Hunter.
Yeah. Sidisi, of course, managed to turn Hunter into an OTK. He managed to use Carver. What's the full name of that card? It's the new card where you can target something for discounts in your hand.
Oh, yeah. It's a Tolvir something or other.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
So you do that. You discount your Emmon Scale Scout, which becomes an 8/8 dragon after you play a dragon that does its damage anywhere, including face. You get it to 1 mana. You play a Cloud Serpent, so you have 2 of them, and then you play it with Neri.
Oh, no. So it doubles the power before the battle cry?
Then does 16 damage. It sure did work. Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He sure did cook there. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Are we doing that all the time? Probably not if we're not Sidisi, but still, even just doing 8.
Wait, if you copy it before it costs 1 in your hand, does the copy also discount each turn? That's what I would want to know.
Yes, he says it does.
Okay, yeah. So that is like much more feasible to set up. That's wild. And yeah, certainly not something I would have thought to do, but amazing. Yeah, and if you get it buffed by Supply Run or something, although it seems like maybe that's not the kind of deck that can run Supply Run, or at least isn't playing the assembled version of it. I don't know.
Yeah, Supply Run in the 1-drop one totally worked.
Very good.
Really good for refill, good for buffing your stuff. Like, that was totally fine. But yeah, I'm not sure about in the Big Dragon version. But we did run into Sidisi, not in that game. Luckily, that was not against us. But we did run into him in a Hunter Mirror at least once and get destroyed because you never beat Sidisi at his own game.
Yeah, no. No, we should have been playing Priest. Then we would have been fine.
I had actually messaged him before saying I look forward to the traditional us on Priest versus you on Hunter game in this theorycrafting, but instead it was.
Well, that's what happens when I'm not running the mouse. That's what happens.
Yep. This was when Edel had to step away, so I was driving for a little bit. And so of course I was like, I want to play my 1-drop Hunter that I'm actually kind of doing okay with. So yeah, not worried about Hunter. The Demon Hunter Fell spell thing seems like it could be gross.
Demon Hunter is quite interesting to me. So yeah, new stuff. Nespira Enthralled, which is 3 cost, 5 durability location. Deal 1 damage after you cast a Fell spell, reopen. Death Rattle, summon Nespira Unshackled. And Nespira Unshackled is a 6 mana 6/6 beast. After you cast a Fell spell, get a random Naga. It costs 1. Well, the pool of Naga is smaller. And so, decent odds you get Ravenous Fellfisher, a 6 mana 5/5 Naga that costs 1 less for each Fell spell you've cast this game, so it is free. And Malevolent Mutant, a 3 mana 3/4 Naga, Battlecry, choose a Fell spell in your hand, get a copy of it. I still don't know what the balance of like Fell spells, Naga, and Herald will be for a Demon Hunter, but it will be.
Yeah. They might be even be different decks. They might even be different decks. Like, they're going to be the same deck in Theorycrafting because you have to get to the 10 card threshold, but they might be different decks in the live meta.
I mean, you get to the 10 card threshold just by being a Herald class and running all the Heralds and Deathwing, right?
Yeah.
But I think this location is quite interesting because, yeah, you can run it in the Herald deck. You can run it in a thing that is a Fell deck. You could also run it in a no minions Demon Hunter because you're running all the Fell spells in that, and it would make that better. I think the question, if you are not also Herald, is, well, what happens when you don't find location?
Yeah.
And
it's a legendary location too. So
right.
And again, no reliable way to tutor it. I think it's also worth mentioning that like the no minion decks are very difficult to build in Theorycrafting because there just aren't enough spells. So generally hitting the 10 card threshold for those is extremely difficult, and you don't see very much of that.
Right. But it might be a thing day one where you like throw this location into a no minion demon hunter, you've got a bunch of fell spells, and it just makes that better because sometimes you pop off with this, sometimes you pop off with the demon based legendary location, and could be interesting, could do something. But in the Herald deck, it just also felt like another powerful thing that they could do.
And one of them is Ajara, Ocean Lord, who I believe you can get from this, right? Because you're not generating her on the board.
Right. You can't summon Colossals in play, but you can get them to your hand. So,
and one of them is one of her heralds. The other ones are Gladesong Siren from Priest, Malevolent Mutant, which is a new Demon Hunter battlecry. Choose a fell spell in your hand, get a copy of it. And Ravenous Fellfisher, which is the 5/5 that discounts for each fell spell you've cast this game, starts at 6 mana. So either you're playing a Herald deck and you're like, got a good chance of potentially getting extra Heralds or even an extra Ajara, who will be fully heralded if your other one is. Or you're playing it without Ajara, and you're really likely to be able to just copy fell spells in your hand.
And just herald her anyway. You could probably even run Deathwing in the deck without running Ajara and just like make your way into her.
I'm not sure if you can actually get the heralds if you're not running any heralds in your deck to begin with, because I think that Sage said that heralds work like the StarCraft cards.
There's no spells that herald?
There is in Demon Hunter. There's a fell spell that heralds.
That's all you need.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, so you just run that. Yeah,
that's what we did in StarCraft. Is you just ran. All you did was run the one that gave you armor, and then you'd be able to discover whatever else you wanted. Yeah.
So actually,
in Mage, yeah.
I mean that creates this really interesting option for a no minion Demon Hunter, where you've got Nespira, you've got Deathwing, and you've got 2 copies of the fell spell where you herald Ajara and give yourself lifesteal for the turn. That's like good on its own because lifesteal alongside some of the things that give you attack for the turn as Demon Hunter is quite nice. And then you could luck into on your like pop off fell spell turn with Nespira Unshackled, just get an Ajara even though you don't have any minions in your deck. I'm actually like kind of excited to try that now, because you also get to run Broxigar, which you want to do because it gives you a bunch of fell spells that I think Broxigar is kind of what you want to be doing on the way. It's what you use for those to get Nespira down to being almost open, and then set up other things to do on the big pop off turn. The only thing that if you're doing no minion is you can't do a setup like where you play the 4 mana minion that you discover a fell spell and discount all of them in your hand by 1. Can't do that. But
you're also not going to be able to test that in the pre-release Brawl, in the pre-release Tavern Brawl, because
no, not at all.
You're not going to have any of the legendaries from across the timeways.
Yeah, pre-release Brawl for me this time is going to be weird, because I'm intending to give my bundles to a friend who's getting back in the game, because I expect there to be a bundle like there was for the Ungoro quests, where it's like a bunch of the Herald cards as premium. And,
the signatures, yeah.
And I'll just buy that, and that'll be my bundle. Because it always felt funny, like, I could get this, but I already have all the cards. But that does mean that for the pre-release Brawl, I will have nothing.
Well, you can hit us up and we can co-op or something.
It'll be interesting to talk about the experience from that perspective.
That's true.
Or I'll break and get it anyway. We'll see.
I guess the last thing I will say is that Egg Warlock seemed spooky.
Oh gosh. Egg Warlock is going to dominate early. I think. I mean, maybe that will age poorly, but it just felt like, I don't even know if you run Cho. I truly don't.
No, I think you might not.
You could not run Shogal, you could not run Deathwing, and just run the efficient Herald cards as things to eat your egg, alongside all the other ways we break the egg. and you just are doing what we had been doing with Egglock, which is making a bunch of 2020s.
Yeah.
This could be the thing that gets it unbuffed. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that would be wild.
It could end up being a rotten egg, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just end with that on well, there's always something that's spooky in theory crafting, and that was Egglock.
Yep. Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com. We can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at coinconcede. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@coinconcede. And if you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at coin-concede-shop.fourthwall.com. Or click that link in the show notes. Coin Concedes. What have y'all got?
Well, I will coin concede to Ben Hearthstone for making graphics of the cards that were revealed, particularly during the reveal stream, because it is considerably more difficult to keep up with what has been revealed and what hasn't with the way that we're doing it this time around, and where we're not doing full classes all at once. So having his graphics to be able to reference to say exactly what we hadn't talked about yet and what we have is very helpful. And he is very generous in allowing us to use his graphics on stream, and we are very grateful for that.
I will coin concede to my husband, who is being very helpful while I'm sick here. He's really been picking up cooking, dishes, even though he's kind of recovering from the same thing and having a major crisis at work. So I'm going to try to pick that up again myself as soon as possible, but anyone who's watching the YouTube video or the stream can see that I was frequently muting myself to cough, and I apologize if there were times when I forgot to. I think there was at least one. Mute myself. So, yeah, it's always miserable being sick, but helpful to have a partner there, and I suppose I shouldn't complain because I don't have a toddler who is also sick. So...
Well, I will coin concede to Warshack. Good games. Glad I could make some content for you. And yeah, maybe I can get revenge on Ladder after launch. We'll see.
Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and good luck with your polls for pre-release brawls. And if you see us on Ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me. I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.